A very good noon to all of you. I welcome you to BYJU'S Exam Prep CAT and MBA, and I welcome you to this session, How to Approach Parasummary Questions. So let's talk about this commonly asked question in not just CAT but also in other management entrance tests, right? So Parasummary is not just confined to CAT in case you're thinking that it is relevant only for the VA section of CAT. No, it is asked in other management entrance tests also. Right. So let's see the basics of it, how to approach it, what should be our strategy, how to solve questions, how to read paragraphs. All of that we'll break down and look at today. Right. So I hope I am visible and audible to all of you. Okay. So of course, we'll look at not just the questions but also the approach as I've told you. And we'll first learn what a summary is. Yes. Who will tell me what a parasummary is? Okay, so if I look at a paragraph, okay, and what do I see? When I look at a paragraph, I see that it's a collection of some statements. Now, these statements are, of course, interconnected with each other. How are they interconnected? They share some theme. That is why they have been put into a paragraph. Now, if I ask you to summarize this paragraph, what will you do? Hi Pratik, hello Videep, hello Monkey D. Luffy, good noon, good noon. Yes, so this is my first question for you. What is a summary? Something that you've read in your junior classes, this is not new for you? Okay, let me tell you. A summary is a brief account. Whatever is written in your paragraph, okay, whatever key ideas are captured in your paragraph, a summary is simply a brief of it. Okay, it does not conclude anything from it, it does not derive anything from it, it just states the same information but briefly. So, of course, when you state something briefly, will you capture each and every point of the paragraph? No, you will simply talk about the main points, the essence. You will, of course, capture the essence of it, the crux of it, okay, the gist of it. That is what you will focus on rather than, let's say, all the details, all the examples, all the dates that are there in that paragraph. You'll not be worried about those, right? So, remember this that it may not have all the dates out there that are there in your paragraph. It may not have all the details out there, it may not have all the examples. Okay, remember this. Then it will cover the main point. So sometimes students are worried that, I saw four options, but then none of them was covering all the points, right? Which is okay. A summary need not cover all the points, it will just cover the main points. Right. So keep this in mind because this sometimes becomes a challenge for students when they have this image of an ideal summary in their mind after reading the paragraph and then they do not find the exact same thing in any of the options. Okay. So see which of the following options, in case you're given an option after a paragraph, see which of the options that follow, they contain the maximum points, the maximum important points of the paragraph. Okay. The maximum important points. All right. So, absolutely correct, Innocent. For any exam, is there any place? Yes, yes, Monkey D. Luffy. You can find them on BYJU'S Exam Prep app, the previous year CAT papers. Okay. So, and in fact, some non-CAT papers are also there on the app. So, just download and search. You'll find previous year CAT and some non-CAT papers also, I'm very sure. Okay. Okay, then. Yes. Uh, so essence ho gaya, main point ho gaya. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that something that I've observed over the years that students tend to confuse these two terms, a summary and a conclusion. Yes. So what is the difference between the two? A summary and a conclusion. If I ask you to derive something based on your understanding of the information that you've read. That is conclusion. A summary does not ask you to derive something based on the information that you've read. It just asks you to give a brief account. So conclusion is a step further, while summary is simply the brief. A lot of times when we read information, because our mind automatically processes it, when we come to the options, instead of marking the para summary, we tend to mark the conclusion based on that paragraph. So avoid this, right? That's why I'm telling you this. So I hope you'll remember these points, what a summary is, and we do not have to confuse a summary with a conclusion, right? Okay then. Now let's come to solving and reading a para summary question. So this is fine. You've understood what a summary is. Now how to approach the para summary question in the exam. Of course, you will read the paragraph first, right? You will read it, understand it. So how should you go about that? Let's learn that. First is that please learn to read for key ideas. And this is a very general tip. This is something that is equally applicable to your RC passages also. See, every paragraph or every passage, not each and every point is equally important there. You know this by now. You must have read some passages. You must have read a number of articles also in your prep, right, as part of your prep. So there are certain ideas that the author wants to focus more on because those are the reasons why the author has written that paragraph or that passage, right? So learn to read for key ideas. Focus on the key ideas. Now you must be thinking, but how to identify them? See, when you read, I mean, of course, you are reading to understand the meaning, but at the same time, focus on this part that, okay, what is the role of this sentence? Is this sentence merely an example? Okay, if it is an example, then it must be supporting something. What is it supporting? What is that supported idea here? That idea that this example is supporting, that perhaps is your key idea. Okay, is this sentence merely giving some detail or some fact, some date that is not really the reason why the author has written this paragraph? Then no, it's not the key idea. So learn to see what is the role of each and every sentence. Okay, some sentences are there just to support other sentences, just to introduce the story, but they're not the main story themselves. Okay, to introduce the theme, but they're not the theme themselves. So when you learn to read like this, अच्छा ये बात तो है, ये जरूरी वाली बात है, right? This point that is given here, this is why the author, this is something that is the author's opinion, the author's view. This is why the author has written this paragraph, or this is an important point. So when you start reading like that, automatically you will become more effective readers of RC passages, and you will become better at solving para summary questions also. We'll implement this through a question. Okay, we'll implement this. Yes, hi Divij, good afternoon. Why are you so unsure about this? Uh, One thing is, and it's again, you might think that it's a very sweeping tip that I'm giving you, that I'm asking you to focus on the opening and closing sentences. Now, I'm not saying that that will give you the correct answer. Okay, that's a very simplistic notion that just reading the opening and closing sentences will give me the correct answer for a para summary question. It doesn't work like that. However, sometimes they contain a lot of important information, these two sentences. So I always read them more carefully. Okay, so that in case there is some important information out there, I don't miss it. Just reading these two won't suffice, but it will help. Okay, so focus on the opening and the closing sentences. Okay, okay, that's okay, Divij. Let's try to solve your problems today through some questions, right? Pay attention to transition words, a very, very important thing that you have to keep in mind. So, what are transition words? These conjunctions that show continuation, contradiction, cause effect relationship, isn't it? So, additionally, I am continuing something, but however, contradicting something. Then, cause effect, as a result, since. So, pay attention to these transition words because a lot of times the main point will be there after these transition words, right? So, for instance, if the author gives a popular view about evolution, okay, So the popular view is, of course, that there's this theory of evolution that has more or less been proven, and we know that okay, evolution happened. Yes, so that is the popular view. Then the author says, but can we be so sure about it? Okay, but there is still no conclusive proof. If the author says that, then after this but comes the author's opinion, right? And that is important in a paragraph, that is important in a passage. So these transition words, okay, and this is not an exhaustive list that I'm giving you, just some examples. Pay attention to these, okay? All right. So this is your reading approach. Now let's do this activity. Let's read a paragraph, okay? And I'll ask you to underline, to tell me what the important keywords there are, okay? If you had to underline some important keywords while reading that paragraph, what would those be, right? Let's do this activity. Okay, so here's your paragraph. Now read this and tell me what are the important words or the important ideas that the author is trying to convey here. Yes. Simply tell me the important words. Okay. Monkey, that would be a little tricky. You'll have to Google this, I'm afraid, because it's not that popular in exam, no? So Google it and you'll find it on at some place or the other. Yes, so tell me what are the keywords? If let's say you were reading this paragraph in an exam situation and you had the option to underline the main words, which words would you underline? Okay, so intuition, correct. After this information, because these are the two factors, right? One or a combination of two factors. What are the two factors? Intuition, information, right? Then I'll go for fast. You're right, fast and slow, both are important here. So basically, those based on intuition are fast. Yes? Okay. After this, this idea. This is an important idea. Difficulty explaining the reasoning behind it. Okay, because see, these are fast, it's quite philosophical. Yes, so you will have difficulty in explaining the reasoning behind it. Okay, so let me just encircle this. Right, so you utilize your senses, your experience. Okay, perhaps these two words. Then after this, on the other side of the spectrum, now see there's a transition word there. I'm drawing a contrast. Yes, on the other side. So I realize that this paragraph is a compare contrast paragraph. It is contrasting two things, right? So this is a very important piece of information. On the other side of the spectrum, we have decisions made based on information, something that I've already highlighted. Now those based on information are rational, right? Based on facts and figures, okay, and that's why they can also be slow, right? Rational, slow. Now the decision maker, how does he or she make it? So basically the intuitive decision maker was utilizing her senses, experience. This person on the other end reports, analysis, indicators, etc. So you may or may not underline this idea. We are basically explaining the process of decision making here, right? That's why, I simply just underline this instead of encircling this. These are my main words. This methodology results in accurate, quantifiable decisions, meaning that a person can clearly explain the rationale behind it. So while here there was a difficulty, here the person can clearly explain the rationale behind it. So right now I encircled it, I underlined it. Of course, in the exam, you don't have that option. So in the exam, you have to, from right now, you have to prepare yourself in such a way that this becomes a mental process, that you register the important keywords, the important key ideas as you read. And at the same time, you understand the skeleton. The skeleton of this paragraph is that it's a compare contrast paragraph. Its idea is to compare two ways of making decisions, intuition and information. Correct? Make sense? Okay, I want more responses. Come on. So now that you've understood this paragraph in such detail, can you tell me which of these will be the correct summary of this paragraph? Let's see. You have to summarize this paragraph, that is, capture its essence and the main points. Divij has answered. What about others? Innocent, what do you say? Monkey D. Luffy, what about you? Videep, Prateek? All right, then let's discuss this. See, so of course, that's why I told you that, pay attention to the opening and the closing sentences. So here, right in the beginning, I get to know that the author wants to discuss one or a combination of two factors. Now, what are those two factors? That is stated in the next sentence. So this fact has to be there in any summary that I'm trying to mark as the answer, that there are two ways. Okay, there are two factors that influence the decision of a person, right? So if you see, first one just talks about intuition. It's incomplete. It just talks about intuition. It doesn't talk about information at all. Two does talk about both information or intuition, right? Three, it is better to make decisions based on information because it is more accurate and the rationale behind it can be explained. There are two problems with this. The author never gives this conclusion. So that's why I said that, summary versus conclusion, beware. Secondly, again, it focuses more on information only and not on intuition. So it is in the nature of a conclusion, and that too it's not capturing the essence of the entire paragraph. 2 versus 4. Now, which one is more comprehensive here? We make decisions, okay, on the basis of the time available. Did we talk about the availability of time in the paragraph? We just said, okay, one is fast, the other is slow. That's what we said. However, we did not talk about how much time we had available. So, distorted there. It is quite a distorted option. In fact, it states something that has not been discussed as such in the paragraph. Decisions based on intuition and information result in differential speed. Yes, one of them is fast, the other is slow. So, different. There is a difference in the speed. And ability to provide a rationale. I specifically encircled it, take this idea that in one, you have a difficulty in explaining the rationale in the intuition based decisions, while in the other, you can easily explain the rationale. So, it is capturing two ideas, that of speed and rationale, which were two important ideas. It is talking about both. This is the most comprehensive. This is our answer. Not a difficult question, this one. Okay, so pay attention here that I first assimilated the information, that is, I understood what were the key ideas. Okay, Then when I came to the options, I eliminated. Okay, 1 and 3, easy to eliminate. Just talk about one of the two ideas. Okay, between 2 and 4, which is more accurate? Which is more comprehensive? That's how I decided. Make sense now? Avantika, Prateek, Monkey, what's your name? Right? So 4 is the answer. All right. So what kind of traps did we observe right now? Let's just see. We observed some of the traps. I'll talk to you about the other traps that can be present in your para summary options. One trap that we saw was the summary versus conclusion trap. Yes, instead of giving a summary, we were given a conclusion. The other trap that can be present is, let's say my uh, paragraph is talking just about one field of humanities. Humanities is such a vast field. It has history, it has, it has sociology, it has all the civics, economics, whatever we studied. Okay, so all those subjects that we studied as part of social science. So those are again part of humanities and social science. So uh, let's say I'm talking just about economics. I'm talking about the field of economics in the paragraph. Okay. And my para summary concludes something about the field of social science. Social science is much, much broader, right, than just economics. So if I conclude something about the entire field of social science based on just one of the subjects, which is economics, that's a generalized summary. Okay, if I conclude something, that would be a conclusion. Or if I make a comment that has been made about economics and I generalize that comment to social science, that would be a generalized summary. So beware again. We have to stick to what is given to us. If my paragraph talks just about Mr. X, my summary has to stick to Mr. X. It can't talk about, if let's say Mr. X is a politician, it can't say, my summary can't say that the paragraph talks about all the politicians out there. That is a generalized summary. Right? Make sense? Okay. Then sometimes it can contain information that is not at all discussed in the paragraph, not discussed, some additional information not discussed in the paragraph. So if you saw, the availability of time was not discussed, the availability of time was not something that was discussed in the paragraph, how much time was available to us. So this is additional info, right? And this is a trap. So note this down. If you want to take a screenshot, please be very cautious about these sorts of options. Then distorted. So here I say the opposite of what is mentioned in the passage or the paragraph, right? The summary can't say the opposite of what is there in the paragraph. Similarly, the summary can't take what is there in the paragraph to extreme. If the paragraph says that progress may happen as a result of this policy, the summary can't say progress will happen as a result of this policy. Saying that will be extreme, right? So be on the lookout of extreme words, words such as definitely, certainly, only. Okay, these qualifiers, definitely, certainly, only, always, right? So a summary cannot itself take something to the extreme. And lastly, incomplete. Again, we saw this. We saw this in option 1 and 3 in our previous question, that they were incomplete. They were not capturing the essence, all the main points they were not capturing. In fact, एक बहुत major main point they were leaving, right? So a summary, these are the traps that the examiner creates for you in a summary question. And we saw almost all of these traps in our previous question, right? Summary versus conclusion here means that, Divij, a summary is not a conclusion. A conclusion is something that you derive from the paragraph based on your understanding, whereas a summary is simply capturing what is stated in brief. You are not deriving or going a step further in a summary. So sometimes the examiner, in order to confuse you, will give a conclusion in the option. So for instance, in the previous question, here it is better to do something. This is in the nature of a judgment that has been given, and the author never even gives this judgment, right? So we can't go such, we can't take such a leap and make a comment like this on our own. So hope this is clear to you. All right then. So let's see some questions now. Again, these questions will have these traps that I've just explained to you. And let me see how many of you identify that. And let's discuss your problems also along the way. So this is the question. These are the four options. Read it and tell me what the answer should be. Please follow whatever I've told you so far while reading. Okay? Okay, got my first response. What about others? Come on. Okay. One, two. Okay, two twos. All right. Okay. So, a biology related paragraph, right? It talks about biologists, it talks about physicists. And I told you to pay attention to the transition words, yes? But physicists, so there's a contrast here, but some journals, okay? Even if the idea, right? So here we are saying that, but physicists have been routinely publishing research digitally prior to submitting in a peer-reviewed journal. So this is a practice that is being followed in the arena of physics. Physicists have been following it, right? Biologists are still hesitant about it because the last sentence tells us even if the idea of preprints is gaining ground, even if it is becoming popular, this idea of pre-printing. Okay, publishing your research digitally before submitting it in a peer-reviewed journal, even if it is becoming popular, one of the biggest barriers for biologists is how they would be viewed by members of their conservative research community. So that tells me that biologists are still a little hesitant, right? It's a big barrier for them. Okay. So if I look at one, preprints of research are frowned on by some scientific fields as they do not undergo a rigorous reviewing process. So till this, it makes sense. This is what we've just read in the paragraph. So till this point, option one makes sense. But are accepted among biologists? Are they accepted among biologists or physicists? Biologists, my last sentence is they are still a little hesitant about it. It's a big barrier for them that if they publish, if they give a preprint, then how will their conservative research community view them? So this is false. This is distorted. My paragraph said this about physicists that it's an accepted practice. They have been routinely publishing. Okay, so this cannot be the answer. Those who said 2, absolutely correct. 2 is the answer here. Compared to biologists, physicists are less conservative in their acceptance of digital pre-publication of research papers. This comparison was made right in the first sentence, which allows for faster dissemination of knowledge. So this pre-publication, this pre-printing, what does it allow? A quick and open dissemination which of knowledge, okay, speeds up scientific progress, allows for wider access to knowledge. So this captures both the points about biologists, that okay, they might be a little hesitant, they might be conservative, and about physicists, that they are not. And this idea also, that how is this helping us? This is helping us because it helps in quick and open dissemination of knowledge, right? So 2 is going to be our answer, captures all the main points, captures the essence. Okay, how did you reject 3 and 4? Some very extreme errors here. Almost all, almost all. My paragraph very clearly said some. Some, you can't make some, change some to almost all, isn't it? So extreme. So whatever traps I listed there, those are the traps that you will find in the options that are incorrect. Okay. Then most scientific communities. Where did we say that? Most scientific communities, right? Extreme and distorted. So that's why option 2 is our answer. I hope this is making more and more sense to you as we proceed. Now, how do you solve ultimately? Ultimately, what am I doing when I'm solving? I'm identifying the differences among options. See, that's what I'm highlighting. Almost all, most scientific communities. So, identifying the differences. Then I'm eliminating the traps. The trap options I'm eliminating. And finally, I'm marking the closest answer. It may not be the ideal summary out there. It may not cover all the points that I would want the paragraph to cover, the summary to cover, but I'm marking the one that is closest to the paragraph out of the given 4 options. That is your solving strategy. How did option 2 talk about open dissemination? Okay, let's have a look. Just a second. Faster dissemination of knowledge. Okay. Right. So quick it did talk about, and open dissemination, right? So you are right. It did not talk about the open fact, the fact that it is an open platform, right? Open dissemination of research. So now see, it did not even talk about speeding up scientific progress, isn't it? It didn't talk about this either, that this speeds up scientific progress. We are just talking about dissemination of knowledge. So as I said, that this may not be the ideal summary that you would have written if you were asked to write one, but this is the best out of the lot, right? So look for the answer that is the closest, that is the most comprehensive out of the given options. All right. Okay. Let's go to the next question then. Now we have learned the approach. We know how to read, we know how to solve, and we know what are the traps and how to avoid them, right? Let's implement all of this in this question. Yes. Okay, Divij, tell me. Others also. I've got just one response so far. 2 or 4. So you're on the right track. Between 2 and 4, you can spot some differences. Do that and you'll find your answer, your correct answer. Others. Divij, what do you say? Kartikeya says 4. Okay. All right, then let's discuss this. So, three out of four of you have answered, say 4, and you're absolutely correct. 4 is the answer, right? So that means you were able to understand this paragraph, you were able to identify the traps, spot the differences, and eliminate, right? Now, I understand that some words here may have posed a challenge for you. For instance, the word continuum, just taking an example, continuum or heterogeneity. But we don't have to get caught up in these words. The idea should be that, okay, is the gist, the crux, that is clear to me. If that is, then you need not worry about the exact meaning of specific words. So use your contextual inference skills. That would be my suggestion. Okay. So the rural-urban continuum and the heterogeneity of urban settings pose an obvious challenge to identifying urban areas. Okay. The challenge is to identify urban areas and measuring urbanization rates in a consistent way. Right. So we are facing some challenge in this regard. Why? Because not all urban settings are of different kinds. Right. Moreover, we can look at the rural and urban areas in the form of a continuum. So if here we have rural areas and here we have urban areas, okay, then in the middle also we could have something that is partly rural, partly urban. So it's a continuum rather than a dichotomy there. Okay, so now then the author talks about how can we overcome this problem. Yes, how can that problem be overcome? So this is a problem solution sort of a paragraph. An objective methodology for distinguishing between urban and rural areas that is based on one or two metrics with fixed thresholds may not adequately capture the wide diversity of places. So if I just take one or two criteria for differentiating between urban and rural areas, I may not be able to capture the diversity, the wide diversity of places. That how, let's say, there can be a place that is mostly, let's say, urban. हाँ यहाँ पर है ना, it's nearer urban, so mostly urban, but then it also has elements of rural. Or there can be an area that is mostly rural but also has some elements of urban, right? That way. So we'll not be able to capture if we just consider one or two criteria with fixed thresholds. So what is the solution then? A richer combination of criteria would better describe the multifaceted nature of a city's function and its environment. I need a richer combination of criteria, right? But the joint interpretation now, but see again, please pay attention to the transition words. But the joint interpretation of these criteria, see, I have taken many criteria, right? The joint interpretation of these may require an element of human judgment. This is a very, very important idea, has to be captured in the summary. Okay, now let's look at 2. The difficulty of accurately identifying urban areas, okay, means that we need to create a rich combination of criteria. Fine. That can be applied to all urban areas. I had a problem with this word all. And secondly, my problem is that it is incomplete. That this rich combination also comes with a challenge, that the interpretation of this combination may require an element of human judgment. So one problem, one point of, one point at which I got alert was all, because we are not talking about whether this will be applicable to all urban areas or not. That was not the focal point. And secondly, this is incomplete. 4, on the other hand, we thus talk about diversity. With the diversity of urban landscapes, measurable criteria for defining urban areas. So what are the measurable criteria? These metrics with fixed thresholds. These are the measurable criteria, right? These may need to be supplemented with human judgment. So I might need to increase my criteria, okay, and I might need to supplement them with human judgment. So 4 is capturing the paragraph's main points. They are both the same, Karthike. They are both the same, just 10 crux. right? So I just explained this in detail to you, although most of you got this correct. And how did we eliminate 1 and 3? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Yes. Why not 1? Why is 1 not the answer? So distinguishing between urban and rural areas might call for some judgment. Okay. So human judgment, the word human is missing, but fine. Let's read further. On the objective methodology being used to define a city's functions. See, we are uh, also discussing this idea that we need a richer combination of criteria. One is that is not captured. Also, used to define a city's functions. Are we using this methodology to define a city's functions? This is distorted here. We are just using this to distinguish between, okay, this is a rural area, this is an urban area. We are not defining a city's functions based on this criteria. So ये distorted हो गया अब यहाँ पर, right? Then 3, current methodologies used to define urban and rural areas are no longer relevant. Okay, extreme right here. Okay, so this talked about something that was distorted. This became extreme by saying no longer relevant. So teaching you elimination in detail in this session. That's the purpose. Let's look at this question now. 4 options. Let's see. Let's see who answers this the most quickly. Not a difficult question. Let's see who answers the fastest. What do you say? Okay, option 4 is what Divit says. Do we agree? Gopalji also says option 4. Okay, good. So while this looked like something that was abstract, this paragraph looked like it was an abstract paragraph, isn't it? But if you see, one is that what it's saying is very relatable in the sense that you understand it intuitively, right? You understand it from your experience also. So that's one thing. Second thing, that the options have very clear clues, okay, very clear errors that will help you to eliminate 3 options. This part here, has it led to greater idleness? Yes, so we are saying that hard work has been glorified to the extent that it has become meaningless and led to greater idleness. No. In fact, people are busier. Okay, in their need for activity, people undertake what was once considered work as hobbies. People are now even working as hobbies. They are taking up fishing, gardening, etc. as hobbies. So it has not led to greater idleness. False, as per the passage. Yes. Then this is in the nature of a judgment. Has the author said this? That, has the author given his or her own opinion here? This is again a compare contrast passage. The author just describes two views. The author never gives his or her own opinion here. Right? So I can't conclude and say, I mean, of course, I can't conclude at all. And this is in the nature of a conclusion or judgment, which is not even there in the paragraph, not even implied in the paragraph. So hard work is essential in today's world? No, goes beyond the scope of the paragraph. 3. It has overtaken all aspects of our lives. It has it. It has overtaken all aspects of our lives. Where does the paragraph say that? Extreme. So extreme, false, judgment based, there's only one correct option here, which is option 4. Good. Two of you said 4. What are the others doing? Yes. The idealization of hard work, we are, looking at it as a virtue. It has propelled people into meaningless jobs. It has actually pushed people into meaningless jobs and endless activity. They are now working even in their hobbies. It has also led to tremendous social benefits. That's the opposing view. Yes, the opposing view. That it has led to tremendous social benefits from prosperity and innovation given to us here, right? Makes sense, everyone? I hope. Let's see this one then. Let's see. I can see some extreme words. Two options very easily eliminable. What about the other two? Which ones have you narrowed down to? You can tell me that also. Two, all right. Others? What do you say? Can we eliminate 3 and 4? Is it easy to eliminate 3 and 4? I think 3 and 4 can be easily eliminated here. It comes down to 1 and 2. So those who are saying 2, why not 1? Yes. So, see this. Let me first show you the very visible defects in 3 and 4, right? So the entire paragraph is trying to tell us that no, artworks are not timeless. That's what it's trying to show us, that many are objects of decay. So saying that we have to guard timeless art, okay, are treasures from intrinsic defects such as blah blah blah, but then this entire premise is wrong, that they are timeless. Okay, so this becomes false right here. This becomes extreme, okay, that the artworks are preserved forever because they are objects of decay. Okay, so extreme and incorrect also eliminated. 3 and 4. Between 1 and 2. Are we talking about the moral responsibility of museums? The moral responsibility. Museums are left with the moral responsibility of restoring and preserving the artworks since artists cannot preserve their works beyond their life. Okay, fine. I understand that the word morality has been used in the paragraph, but it says that, okay, the lesson that is there in this, the lesson that is there in the decay of artworks, it's a moral lesson for us. That of, inherent flaw, inherent vice. Okay, then we are given an example also. So we are saying that there is a moral lesson in this decay, but we are never talking about the moral responsibility of museums, right? So 2 is the answer. Artworks may not last forever. They may deteriorate with time, and the challenge is to slow down their degeneration. Now, you must be wondering, where is this idea, slowing down their degeneration? See, in this artist Damien Hirst, why did he put the shark in a pickle? This giant fish, why did he put it in a pickle? Because he wanted to, the shark was dead, right? He wanted to slow down the degeneration of the shark. He wanted to preserve the shark, right? He wanted to preserve, it's preserving liquid clouding, right? So he had done something to preserve it, okay, to put it in a preserving liquid to slow down its degeneration, but that didn't work. Okay, so 2 is our answer and not 1. We are not talking about the moral responsibility of museums. Okay. Does it make sense to you? Yes. No, maybe some response is needed. Okay, then. Last question for the day. Let's have a look at this. Again, it's about cities. Okay, this came last year itself, CAT 2022. Let's see what you say. Okay, what you narrow down to, what you mark as the answer. Pay attention to the opening and closing sentences. Mentally underline the keywords. Let's see. Gopalji says 3. Monkey Luffy says 4. Others? 3 versus 4. Any other option? So, as I said that, I told you that we should always read the first and the last sentences carefully. Several of the world's earliest cities were organized along egalitarian lines, okay, along the lines of equality. Then we actually give the evidence of this, okay, we provide evidence of this statement in the latter sentences when we say that, okay, um, there is simply no evidence of a class of administrators or any other sort of ruling stratum. So we can say this for a fact that several of the world's earlier cities were organized along egalitarian lines. Far from resigning us to inequality, the picture that is now emerging of humanity's past may open our eyes to egalitarian possibilities we otherwise would have never considered. So that means that whatever we have found provides evidence of the fact that our societies were not very hierarchical earlier, right? So we have evidence in support of this now. Okay. So why not one? We now have evidence in support of the existence. Why not one? Yes. Those who are saying three, four. See, we talk about an assumption in three. Yes. Do we see that assumption in the paragraph that we have assumed this? Do we see that? I don't see the mention of any assumption here. So can that be the answer then? Your popular choice. Contrary to our assumption that urban settlements have always involved hierarchical, political, and administrative structures, ancient cities were not organized in this way. This part, this contrary to our assumption idea, this is missing from the paragraph, not stated in the paragraph that we had such an assumption, right? So it is 1 rather than 3. 4 says the lack of hierarchical administration can be deduced. 4 is very narrow and incomplete. Fine. But what is the implication of that? We can deduce that from the absence of religious and regal structures such as temples and palaces. But what is the implication? Right? The implication is that there existed an egalitarian urban life. Okay. So this idea of the existence of an egalitarian urban life had to be captured. Okay. Does this make sense? So it is opening our eyes to egalitarian possibilities we otherwise would have never considered. Okay, so you are saying that that's because we had this assumption already. Okay. Mm, simply because we didn't know of this. It does not mean that we had an assumption to the contrary. Right. See, because मुझे क्योंकि पता ही नहीं उस possibility का, that's why I didn't consider it. You get it? But saying that we had this assumption that urban settlements have always involved hierarchical, political, and administrative structures, that would be a little extreme just from this last sentence. Okay? There's no comparison in the paragraph. You are right in saying this. Okay. So, in fact, when this question came, no, students asked this. They asked this fact that, okay, where is the comparison when we are talking about less hierarchical, okay, or more hierarchical? Where is the comparison happening in the paragraph? And I agree with you there, right? But at the same time, when you consider it, when you compare it with three, no, have always involved hierarchical, political, and administrative structures. Uh, Ancient cities were not organized in this way. This here itself, this becomes extreme and this becomes a little out of scope, right? And that is why we prefer one, right? This came in which slot? Let me tell you the slot also. Hierarchical, several of the worlds. Yes, this came in slot 2. Slot 2, okay? CAT 2022, and this was the official answer extended. I understand that it's not perfect. That is why I took up this question today. Just want to tell you that between 1 and 3, I understand that neither is perfect. However, 3 has 2 errors as compared to 1, which has probably this error, far less hierarchical, right? This talks about an assumption in place, whereas we might not have had this assumption, we just didn't know. हमें पता नहीं था, but that didn't mean that we had this assumption that they have always involved hierarchical, political, and administrative structures. Get it? Yes. Hope this makes sense. I understand that one is not perfect. It compares, whereas no comparison is there in the paragraph. But if you look at 3, it is more incorrect. Okay, so we are just going for the option that is less bad here. Okay. So this is it from my side, okay? I am leaving you with a CAT 2022 question, and that should give you an idea that you do need to practice, right? So look at more such CAT 22 questions, practice from your previous year papers, and when it comes to preparation, read diverse genres, okay? Especially these genres, because quite a few of your para summary and para jumble questions in the past have come from these genres. Biology, science and tech in general, sociology, okay, and linguistics related to language. These are similar to the main idea question of RC passages. I think you must have realized this when we were doing them, that we are ultimately trying to capture the gist, the crux on a paragraph level as opposed to a passage level. So they are similar. So when you practice your RC passages, that preparation will also in some way complement your para summary prep and solve questions regularly. So just reading won't suffice. You'll have to solve questions. So previous year papers can be your source, right? Then you can practice some topical tests on para summary. You can practice some mocks on CAT mocks when you practice them, or OMET mocks when you practice them. You'll encounter para summary questions, right? So do practice. Okay? I hope this makes sense. And in case you have any query, you can still ask me. I'm still here. In case you don't have a query, great. This is our CAT 23 comprehensive program. For more guidance, for a more detailed preparation, more practice, you can enroll with us. Right, the link is in the description box. Then we also have a scholarship for you if you want to enroll in the CAT 23 program, right? This is through a test which will happen on the 18th at 7 p.m. Okay, and this can help you avail an up to 90% scholarship. If you are confused about your prep, okay, how to go about it, how to manage it along with job, my studies, etc., to resolve these queries, we have a workshop at 11th Feb. You do require to, you're required to register for this workshop, then only you can attend it. So do register. And this is an MAHCET mock that will go live from Feb 11. You have to take it in case you're taking MAHCET, because there are not a lot of mocks available out there when it comes to MAHCET, not a lot of previous year papers also. So this will help you tremendously in evolving a strategy. Also, we are available on various social media platforms. I am sure that you've subscribed to the channel already. We also have our app where we keep conducting informative and very educational sessions for CAT particularly. So in case you're taking CAT 23, you should be on the lookout for these sessions. And we are there on Facebook, Instagram. You can stay connected with us via Telegram as well. Okay. Hope this helps. All right then. Thank you for attending. Bye-bye. I'll see you. Can we join? Okay. So see, we have these open sessions. These are open sessions, so they are available to everyone, the ones that we have at 12 p.m. Okay, here Vikrant sir and I, we see you at 12 p.m. for VRC. Usually this is the time for VRC. Okay, in the evening, sometimes we have English sessions, sometimes we have Quant and LRDI sessions on the app. So BYJU'S exam prep app. So you can connect with us there in the evening at 7 p.m. So at 7 p.m. you have all these sessions here. You will have to check which session is going on. So this is how the schedule usually works. For it, this is dedicated to English VRC. This is for all the sections. All right. Hope this helps. Bye bye. See you.